Hey everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm going to explain about arithmetic sequences that use numbers. And so let's get to it. I would like you to consider the following example. Here we have the numbers 13, 10, 7, 4, 1, and it continues until the last number, which is negative 209. And so we have a couple of questions here that we need to have a look at. Right, so let's start with number 1. Determine the value of the 30th term. Okay, so in order to do this question and to find the value of the 30th term, the main idea is that you want to get the formula for this pattern. Okay, so we're going to start by actually writing out the general formula, which is Tn equals a plus n minus 1 times d. And now we need to identify the a value. So the a value here is 13. Remember, it's the first term. And then the d value is the difference between the terms. So for example, we can use t2 minus t1. So that's going to be 10 minus 13, or we can use t3 minus t2, 7 minus 10. But for example, if we use 10 minus 13, we can easily see that the difference there is negative 3. So basically, we are subtracting 3 every single time so that we can get to the next term. All right, so the next thing is to then substitute a and d into the formula. So Tn equals a, which is 13, plus n minus 1, which we leave like that, times by d. Now, because d is negative, I recommend you put that in brackets, okay? So your formula now looks like this. Right, so now you just have to be careful with the times and with the plus. You need to remember that multiplication gets done before addition. So you need to times the minus 3 into the bracket. You need to distribute it, and then you add on the 13 in the next step to that answer. So you're going to say Tn equals, and then first work out negative 3 times n. So that's going to be negative 3n. And then work out negative 3 times negative 1. Right, so that's going to be positive 3, very important. And then you add on the 13 at the end. Okay, so simplifying this by collecting the constants, we get Tn equals to negative 3n plus 16. So now this is the general term, okay, the general term of the sequence. Once we have the general term, we have a platform to then find the 30th term. So for the 30th term, right, we have to replace 30, or we have to replace n, rather, with 30. So remember, there are two places where n can be found. The one is the subscript and the one is next to the negative 3. So we're replacing both of those, right? So we get this. And then you just continue to work it out. Okay, this is negative 90 plus 16. So negative 90 plus 16 is equals to negative 74, right? So we can say that the 30th term is equals to negative 74. Now, of course, you could continue the pattern. So if you spot this pattern over here, you could continue it until you actually get to the 30th number, and then you will see that negative 74 is in fact the 30th term, right? So you could say 13, 10, and then 7, 4, 1, you know, and then continue. You subtract 3 again, and then kind of continue subtracting 3 consistently, and you will then eventually get to that number that you need, which is, you know, the 30th one is definitely going to be negative 74 there. All right, guys, the second question, how many terms does this pattern have in total? How many terms does this pattern have in total? Now, the secret here is we are given the last term. Okay, so what you do is with this formula where it says Tn, you replace that with your last term. Now we have to solve n. Okay, so you're going to get negative 209. Let me just write this nicely. Negative 209 minus 16 is going to equal minus 3n. So that is going to be negative 225, which equals negative 3n. You drop the minuses on both sides, so you get 3n equals 225. And now it's just a matter of dividing by 3, right? So you're going to get 225 divided by 3. 225 divided by 3. And so that means n is equals to 75. So what that means is there are 75 terms in the sequence in total. There are 75 terms in the pattern or the sequence or whatever you want to call it, the progression. Okay, now finally the third question, is negative 400 a number in this pattern? So the way that we do that is by putting negative 400 over here, solving n. So let's see if that happens nicely, if that works out nicely. We're going to get negative 400 minus 16. This is going to then be negative 416. Okay, and so then 3n equals to positive 416. But now this time, when you try to divide 416 by 3, you do not get a natural number. Okay, so if you remember in the previous video that I did, what that means is that negative 400 is, of course, not a number in the pattern, right? So this is not a natural number, and so you say, therefore, negative 400 is not in the pattern. Okay, let me just get my typing correct there. It's not in the pattern. All right, so yeah, just to kind of summarize over there, we looked at this pattern. If you want to determine the value of the 30th term, you have to first find the general term and then replace n with 30. If you want to find how many terms the pattern has in total, you let Tn equal the last term and you solve n, and then that answer will tell you the number of terms in total. And then if you want to figure out if a particular number is in the pattern or not, you substitute that where the Tn is. If you get an answer which is natural, it means it is in the pattern, but this one is not natural, therefore it is not in the pattern. All right, guys, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that you found that to be useful and you continue to practice math. Don't forget to like and to subscribe so that you can stay in tune with the latest developments on this channel. And just wishing you guys well until